Hi, everyone. My name's Jessie, and I am the teacher community leader at Lalilo. And I'm going to talk with you today all about how to use Lalilo for distance learning. I just want to say thank you guys so much. I'm sure you're super, super busy, and so I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk with me about Lalilo. So if you could, we'll wait a second to let some people get in. If you could just introduce yourself in the chat, that'd be awesome. Let us know where you're teaching, what your situation is right now, and we'd love to hear from you. And of course, as we go, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. That's what a big chunk of this webinar is for, just question and answer. So, let me know all the questions that you have about Lalilo. If, as I'm talking about stuff, if there's just like clarification that you need, let me know about that. Or if you have random questions about other stuff that I don't address, then definitely let me know. The best place to put your questions is in the question box. But I'll be able to hopefully find them in the chat too. So if you put them there by mistake, that's totally fine. I'll definitely check there for questions as well. And then just to let everybody know that this webinar will be recorded. So as soon as we're done, you'll get an email with the recording. So in case you need to hop off early, or if you want to share this with anyone after we're done, then you definitely have that option. So glad to see everybody introducing themselves. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. And we'll go ahead and get started. I don't want to waste any of your time at all. So we'll just go ahead and jump right in. So I'm going to cover what Lalilo is, just kind of like the basics. We'll talk about how you can get your kids to access Lalilo at home. And then we'll talk about the tools that you have in your dashboard to monitor their progress remotely. And like I said, we'll go over any other questions that you have at the end. So Lalilo is a web-based literacy program, just for those of you who are brand new. We offer lots of differentiated reading and phonics lessons for students through like fun and engaging interactive exercises where students will like move through the different worlds of Lalilo and work on all of those different skills. We're based on the foundational reading skills in the Common Core standards. So that's how we've created our scope and sequence for all of our lessons. And at Lalilo, we really, really, really value teacher input. We created this product for you because we know that teaching is the hardest job in the whole world. I myself was a teacher for 10 years, so I know that the struggle is real. And, we really want to create something that's going to make your life easier as a teacher and also help your kids learn how to read. So as you're getting to know Lalilo, or if you've been using Lalilo for a long time, we really want to hear from you about your feedback. So please let us know ideas that you have for how we can improve our product, because we really do use those to design new features and create all different kinds of new stuff for you to continue to improve our product all the time. Okay, so like I was mentioning before, we have created Lalilo based on the Common Core standards for foundational reading skills. And we used all of those standards to create a learning progression. And you can actually find it if you go to resources from your teacher dashboard and click on scope and sequence. You'll be able to see all the lessons laid out in Lalilo. And this is kind of how Lalilo is actually structured. So students will basically will find the right spot to start in this queue of lessons, and then they'll just work on through those lessons as they go through Lalilo. So we start at kindergarten and we go all the way to the end of second grade. We don't have content that covers third grade and beyond standards. Although if you were teaching third graders or older kids and they are working on kinder to second grade standards, then Lalilo is still appropriate for them. And so we have basically taken all those standards and broken them down into 4 content areas. So we have phonics, sight words, word families, and comprehension. And the comprehension is actually in 2 parts. There's independent reading, and then there's listening comprehension. So the independent reading books, students will read them on their own, obviously, and then the listening comprehension, those books will be read aloud to the students. And both types of comprehension lessons will have reading comprehension questions as they go through the book. And so as you can see in the scope and sequence, all of these different content areas are kind of mixed together. And we do that purposefully because we don't want students to get really bored working on the same type of lessons over and over. So we kind of mix it up just to keep it fun and engaging for them. And so in order to figure out where students should start on that learning progression that we just looked at, we have the placement test. And I kind of hate calling it a test because it's really meant to just be a diagnostic tool and figure out where each individual student should start on that learning progression. Because it's really hard when you have, 20 or 30 kids in your class and they're all at different levels. How do you figure out where they start? So that's what the placement test does for you. So it kind of takes all the guesswork out. So when students first log into Lalilo, the very first time, they will start their placement test. It's about 10 different exercises with maybe 3 to 4 activities within each exercise. It takes them about 10 minutes. And it will determine where they should start on that learning progression. And when the students log in and view the placement test, it really doesn't even look like a test to them. It just, the little characters pop up and say, we're going to do some training to see where you are in your learning. And that's really all that you can tell that is different from the rest of Lalilo. So sometimes people even get confused thinking that, it lasts for like the whole first world, but it really is just about 10 minutes, give or take a few minutes, depending on the child, but it shouldn't really take longer than 10 minutes for each kid. And then once the students finish that placement test, then they'll start on their first lesson within that learning progression. And in your teacher dashboard, you're going to be able to see that some lessons the students will actually skip over because the placement test placed them beyond those lessons in the progression. And to see which lessons are skipping, you'll see these little striped gray tiles. I know it's a little bit hard to see here, but we'll take a closer look in a little bit. So the tiles will turn striped gray to indicate that those lessons were mastered through the placement test and the child is going to skip them. And if you hover over them, it'll give you a little notification that that's the case for those tiles. Okay, so then once students finish that placement test, then like I said, they're going to move through the worlds of Lalilo. So they'll start in the forest world and then they'll move on to the mountains and the ocean and the desert and on and on and on. And we're always designing and adding new worlds. So hopefully, as they get going through, then more will be added. So they'll always kind of stay engaged. And as I was mentioning before, the placement test is just these first 2 stars on the map. And once your students finish them, they'll turn yellow. And so then you'll know that students have finished the placement test if you want to by looking at their map. You'll also can tell if they have those striped tiles that they finished the placement test. But so as they work through the worlds of Lalilo, they're working on all of those different content areas that we looked at. They're doing all kinds of fun lessons and activities, and they collect treasures and badges as they go when they complete their lessons. And then they use those badges to earn more stories that are read aloud to them. So they have that like reward component, but it's still focused on literacy. Okay, so one of the big topics that people are wondering right now is how do we get kids to access Lalilo at home during distance learning? So it's actually pretty simple. So there's 2 ways that kids can access Lalilo. So one is the way that they should be doing it at school is by using the school code. So when kids go to lalilo.com, they'll click on I'm a student, and then they enter this school code. And then they can access whatever, all the classes in their school. And then they can choose their own class. And then inside that class, they can choose their name, and then they can get started. Now, we created that system so that there aren't logins that kids have to remember and passwords that kids have to remember, so that it just creates really easy login process for kids at school when you're there supervising them and there's other kids around to notice if somebody's in the wrong account. At home, though, we don't always know what the level of supervision is, and so we want it to be a little bit more secure when they're at home. So the parent invites kind of do that for you. So when you go into Lalilo, you can click on resources and go to invite parents. And then you have 2 options here to get your parents to help their kids log into Lalilo at home. So if we're at school and everything's normal, then you can just print all the invitations and then send them home in kids' backpacks, and it has all the information about what parents need to do to get their kids on Lalilo at home. If you are not able to send them home that way and you want to do it electronically, you can actually copy a link to the invite for each parent. So you'll just go to the drop-down menu, choose the student, and then you'll be able to click on copy the link for this student. And then once you click that button, then the link will get copied to your clipboard on your computer, and then you can paste it into an email or whatever kind of messaging system you're using or however you're communicating with your families. And then once you send that email off, then parents will be able to go to lalilo.com and click sign up, and they'll actually create their own parent account. And that parent account is going to be able to take them straight to that one student, their student, so that kids won't be able to access like all of the kids in their class and accidentally get into someone else's account. So it's kind of creating that password protection for each individual student by having the parents keep track of all the login credentials so that the students don't have to do it on their own. So once they get in, they'll click on I'm a parent instead of I'm a teacher, and that's going to create this different type of account. So the parent accounts don't have the dashboard, and they won't have all the progress and the tiles and everything like that. Those are all just for teacher accounts. So the parent account, like I said, is really just going to take them straight to that one student. So then they'll fill in their information and click create account. And this is where they're going to need that invitation from you. In the invitation that you sent, there is a 6-letter code. So when they get to that stage, then they'll go over to that email that you sent them and click on the link to the parent invite. And then they'll see that 6-letter code there. So, and then of course it has directions on how to actually log in and all that kind of stuff too. So then they'll copy and paste that code into the box, click connect, and then we can see that they were just connected to that one student, the one that was on the parent invite. So, and then after we click let's start, we're just going to go straight to that student's account and their play button. Again, they won't see a dashboard or any other students. They won't see all of the students in the class like you would if you use the school code. Now, some teachers are worried because they're thinking, oh gosh, I've already sent the school code home. What do I do? Have I broken the law? No. So it's not the end of the world if you've sent the school code home. Don't worry about it. I do strongly recommend that you go ahead and send those parent invites out anyway and just say, hey, we have this other way to log in that's going to be a little bit more secure, and ask parents to do it that way just to create that security for yourself, because you wouldn't want students to be accessing each other's accounts and then mixing up the data, and then that'll just kind of create a headache for you. So to avoid that, I would just let the parents know, here's a better way to do it, and send those off. I also recognize that right now, everybody's really overwhelmed, and especially parents who are trying to work from home and manage their kids and homeschool and all of the things. So if you really feel like it's just going to be way too much of a headache and you've already sent the school code home, it's up to you. But again, I strongly recommend using the parent code just because it creates a little bit more security. So that's that. And let me know if you have questions about this topic, because this is a big one for a lot of teachers and parents. So definitely let me know if there's anything you need clarified on the parent login process and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to my teacher dashboard now. And I'm just going to show you some cool features on how you can kind of keep track of your students' progress as they get started using Lalilo. So just in case you haven't started yet, I'll show you how to create a class. So if you've created a teacher account and now you're in here and you don't have a class yet, all you need to do is click on add class. And it's super simple. We've got a ton of schools in our database already. So you just type in the name of your school, double check on the spelling, like if there's, an acronym or an abbreviation or something like that, you want to make sure that your school really is in there. So try all the different ways that you could spell the name of your school just to double check. If you don't find your school in here, or if you're a homeschool parent, then you can always click here and add your school. So that's an option. Also, homeschool parents can just type in homeschool, and we have like a homeschool school that you can link to. And then you'll name your class, choose your language. We're available in French and English. Those are the only 2 languages we're available in right now. And then you'll choose your grade. And oftentimes teachers wonder, like, well, I know I have this one group of kids that are working like at a kindergarten level, even though I teach first grade. So should I make a separate class for them and label it kindergarten? What should I do? And you really don't have to worry about any of that at all, because the placement test actually takes care of all that for you. So just choose whatever grade you teach, or, if you teach multiple grades, like if you're an intervention teacher or if you're a resource teacher, then, just choose whichever one you think is most appropriate for the majority of your students. And then the placement test is really going to take care of the rest. And they won't see, your students won't see like a corresponding grade level. So, don't worry about like if your kids are a little older, if you choose, first grade or second grade or something like that. they won't know the difference. So, so just click whatever you think is going to be appropriate, because that's really going to just basically let the placement test know what question to start with. And then from there, it'll be determined by how well the student is doing. So just choose whatever you think is most appropriate there. And then once you filled that in, you just click submit, and then you're ready to go. And so then you can hop into your class. If you, like I said, if you just created the class and you need to add your students, you just click here, type in the student's name, and then click add. And then you'll just add all of them in until you've got every student, and then click done. And then all of your kids will be in there. And then from here, you can actually start, once your students actually start using Lalilo and have completed some lessons, then you'll be able to actually start seeing all of your data pop up. And this is when the fun happens. So I'm just going to show you all the little tools that you can use to kind of keep track of what your students are doing on Lalilo. So the first thing to note is the little activity bar at the top. So this is going to give you just kind of like a snapshot of what's going on in your class. So it's going to tell you a little bit about the time students have spent on Lalilo and what they've been working on and what they've mastered. So my class doesn't have active students in it. That's why there's no information in there right now. But your class will have some information in here once your kids start working. So then we have our content areas. So remember we looked at the scope and sequence. We had those 4 different content areas. So here they are in your dashboard. They're all separated out. And on the scope and sequence, the kids, like they kind of cycle through the different types of content, all sort of jumbled together. But on your dashboard, it's all organized and laid out so that you'll be able to find anything that you need. And so just keep in mind, under normal circumstances, we normally have a free version of Lalilo and a premium version of Lalilo. And we sell those premium licenses to schools and districts. So, but right now, everything is available for everybody until the end of the school year. I think the date is June 30th. So you'll be able to access all of the premium features that I'm going to show you until the end of the school year. And if you're wondering like what's part of the premium version and what's part of the free version, anything that is a premium feature has this little star so that you can remember that those are premium features. And the difference between the free version and the premium version is really just these features that I'm going to show you. In both versions, all the students will have access to all the lessons. So if, June 30th comes around and you're realizing like, oh no, I'm going to lose all these premium features, are my kids also going to lose the sight, words, word, family, and comprehension lessons? The answer is no. They're going to be able to keep working on all the lessons for free forever. So the kids will be able to access everything. But these dashboards here, those are premium features. So, so let's jump into what these dashboards actually look like and what data you're going to get from them. And again, all 4 of these are actually laid out exactly the same. So they're all organized the same way. Oh, one other thing, sorry, that I forgot to mention about the premium features is that any premium feature will have that little star, and then it'll also have this little banner here. In case you're thinking like to yourself, I'm not going to be able to live without this premium feature and I want to keep it, then you can just request a quote here for our sales team, and then you can get in touch with them and you can talk with them about pricing and what it would take to bring Lalilo Premium to your school for next year. Again, we sell licenses to schools and districts, and we'll really work with you and with your principal and everybody who's a decision maker at your school or district to figure out the best plan for you. So definitely use that if you're feeling like that's something that you want. Our sales team is super awesome, and so they'll be happy to help you and talk with you about that. Okay, back to the dashboard. So the dashboard is organized into these little clusters at the top. So again, the scope and sequence is kind of jumbled up so that it's not students working on the same type of lesson and the same type of content over and over. But then in the dashboard, it's all organized in a way that you'll be able to find things. So, students are working on consonants and then short vowels and then another set of consonants and then digraphs. And then we have these little arrows here that you can click and then scroll sideways so you can see all of the content clusters. So then, and it goes from all the way from kindergarten content all the way to 2nd grade, and it's all there in one big shot for you. So then from here, you can actually see for each individual student, then you can see all of their lesson tiles. And so when I say tiles, I just mean these little blocks. Each block corresponds to a different lesson that students are working on in Lalilo. So, and then if you hover over the lesson, of course, you can see what the actual content was. And then you can even get some more information if you click on the tile. And so the colors of the tile all mean different things. And there's actually a key right up here. So of course, red means that they need some help. Orange means they're still learning. Green means they're doing great. And then the plain gray means it's just something that they haven't done yet. They haven't gotten to that yet in their progression. The only one that's not on here is those striped tiles. So again, when I was talking about the placement test, if you see any striped gray tiles next to a student's name, that means that they skipped it because of the placement test. So they won't go back to that lesson unless you assign it. And I'll show you the assignments button in just a minute too. Okay, so then if I'm looking through here and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see some kids have these red tiles. What do I do about this? I'm worried. They need help. What do I do? So then you can click on the actual tile, and then it's going to give you this really helpful error analysis page. So then you can decide, maybe I want to work with the student in a small group, or, do like a one-on-one check-in with the student and give them a little bit more direct instruction in this particular piece of content. So the CVCE words, and I can look over here and I can see, okay, you had to spell, game, make, and name, and you dropped the and dice, and you dropped the E on all of those. So I can definitely tell that this student needs a little bit more direct instruction. So I can, put him in a small group, or like I said, do like a little conferring or something like that. I can even click on this button here that says show more, and I can see even more if I want to see if I can look for any other trends or anything like that in his work. Another cool thing about this page is from here you can click to or flip to any other piece of content in the scope and sequence, or you can switch to any other student. So if you're thinking like, oh, he struggled with this, maybe he's going to struggle with that other thing, then you can quickly head to that spot. Or if you're thinking, oh, if he's struggling with this, and maybe this other student that usually, they're in the same group or something like that, they might be struggling too, you can switch to another student. Okay, so then another way to see a little bit more detail about each student is by clicking on this details button over here. So once you click there, you'll be able to see a calendar, and it looks like this student didn't do anything in May yet, but did a lot of work in April. So I can, toggle to any month that I want. And then I can actually click on a specific day and see, if I hover, I can see the total amount of time. And if I click on that day, then I can actually see what the child was, like the actual lessons that they were working on. So this student did a bunch of blending lessons this day. I can see the score report, so they did really well. And I can also see how much time they spent on each individual lesson. And again, if I'm interested, I can even go to click on details, and this is going to bring me back to that error analysis page. So if I want to look a little deeper into, if they're having some trouble there that I notice, I can look at it there. Keep in mind, this is also a premium feature. So it's got that little star and the little banner there for you to remind you. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is the assignments feature. So this is also super cool. Again, this is a premium feature too. And this is going to allow you to actually assign any lesson in Lalilo that you want to. So if I want to, maybe if I do with that student, the CVCE, I do a little small group with him, and then I want to assign this lesson again in a week or so to see how he did, then I can go back and I can reassign it. So I can do it for just an individual. If I did that with a whole group, I can do it with a small group. I can do it with the whole class. Or I can actually use my Lilo demo student, and I can use that as a way for me, the teacher, to actually preview all the lessons. So you've got tons of options here. So if you want to assign it to everybody, there's an easy way to just click here and select everyone. Or you can just, like I said, select a couple individuals. And then you can click next once you've got your little group or batch. So keep in mind, if you have some lessons that you want to assign just to like one individual student, and then another group of lessons that you want to assign to the whole class, you'll have to do those in two separate batches. But for each group that you want to assign to, you can assign as many lessons as you want. So for that small group, maybe I want to do a couple short vowel lessons, and I want to do a reading comprehension book. So we're going to do that one, and then I can click assign. And now I can see those assignments that I just created here in my assignments list. And I can actually see all of the ones that I have. So I have a whole bunch. And if there ever is a problem or anything, I can always go over here and click delete. If I realize, oh no, I wanted this to be short E instead of short A, I clicked on the wrong one. Just delete it. And then I can also click on this little arrow over here, and I can see which students I assigned it to. And then once they start working, all of this information is going to get filled in. So it's going to give me that percentage of mastery, where they need some support, and then what errors they have. So this is a super helpful and versatile tool that you can use. And it's going to be helpful too if you want to, like I mentioned, preview any lessons and for yourself. So then you just would use that Lalilo demo account, and then you can go to student view up here, and I'm going to click on it really quick just to show you. So if I go to my play button, and this is all of our employee classes, so that's why there's so many, then I can go into Lalilo demo, and I can play as this student, and I can do, whatever lessons that I've assigned to myself. I think I've probably assigned something, and then I can preview this book, or I could maybe even, it's too much noise going on at the same time. Sorry. Okay. So once I get in there, I can, I had that read aloud book so I can, read that book for myself, and then maybe I can have a Zoom meeting with my class and share my screen and do that as a read aloud. Or maybe I want to do a phonics lesson with my whole class or with a small group. I can do it that way. Or if I'm just wondering more about what are my students doing, and what do these books look like, and what do these phonics lessons and word family lessons look like, you can assign them to yourself through that Lalilo demo student, and then you can access it that way. So I definitely recommend doing that, especially if you're newer to using Lalilo. Then that could be a really helpful way to just see kind of all that's going on in Lalilo. Okay. Another way, if you want to preview the activities, so I'm back here on my home page. I'm not in my class page anymore. There's this button down here is another way for you to preview things. So this actually has an example or a little demo of every type of lesson that we have on Lalilo. So you can, work through here and click on any of these. I won't click on it because then it'll give us all the sound again. But you can click on it, and then you can actually play that one little lesson as a demo, and then that way you can get a good idea of all the different types of lessons that we have. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and take a look at your questions now, and we'll just kind of work through the questions, and I'll probably show you some more things as we go to answer everybody's questions. And keep the questions coming if you've got more. I'm happy to answer any questions that you got. Okay. First question, is there a way to get students started on Lalilo the first time they sign in without their parent clicking on the link we send? So when I was talking back about the parent code, you can send home the school code if you feel like parents are just way too overwhelmed. But I would really make it clear when you tell the parents about that, just watch them log in and make sure that they're clicking on the correct student, because they really could easily get into someone else's account, and we don't want that to happen. So I would just let them know to kind of still be supervising them a little bit when they're getting started at least. Is there a way to reset a student's initial placement test? I had a parent heavy-handed in supporting their child, and the child placed way beyond what they can handle. Absolutely. And I've actually had that question a lot lately because everybody's doing the placement test at home. So first thing I would do is make sure to talk to that parent and let them know it is okay for your child to be making mistakes on this placement test. It's a diagnostic tool. It's not meant to be a summative assessment. And so they really need to be doing it independently. That way the work that they're getting is going to be at their correct level of difficulty. So I would first and foremost have that conversation with the parent, because otherwise you're going to reassign the placement test and then the same thing's going to happen again. So, and then what you would need to do is you can delete the student from your class and then add them back in. And then that'll kind of just reset all their data. So the only thing to note there is that they'll get a new parent account. So or a new parent code. So when you go to give the parent the new code, that's a great time to tell them like, hey, let the kid do this on their own. But yeah, that's been definitely a common issue with the distance learning right now. Okay. Are you able to work on an app for a device like an iPad or tablet? So we actually currently don't have an app, but you still can use Lalilo on an iPad or tablet. And what I recommend people do is just make one of those little desktop bookmarks. And then it basically even just looks like a little app icon. And so that way, you know, kids can easily just click it and get started. But yes, you definitely can use Lalilo on an iPad or any tablet. Okay, can I post a link to Lalilo and student code in my Google Classroom for the student and the parent that hasn't logged in yet? Yes, you can. Going back to that same topic about the school code versus the parent code, I would just try to reach out directly to that parent if that feels like it's possible for you, rather than posting the school code, because then probably more people will be accessing Lalilo that way. If you feel like that's the only way that people are going to be able to access Lalilo, then you know it's not the end of the world. But again, it kind of opens us up to having that issue of kids possibly getting into each other's accounts. So I would reach out to that parent and say, hey, here's your parent code. It's super easy to log in, and we even have a video on our blog. And let me actually put here's our blog. I'm just going to put the link to our blog in the chat. There's a whole article on here about how to get parents to log in. And it even has a video that walks parents through how to make their own account. It's super easy. So so I would definitely let them know to do that. But if all else fails and you really just can't get parents to, to get their kids to log in, then you could send that. Okay. Can a student be in more than one class? As an EL teacher, some of my students' main classroom teacher is already set up in a classroom account for their shared students. How can we both get notification of the student work? So you could have a student in two classes, but then they would be doing the same work twice. So then they would maybe risk getting bored and being disengaged and stuff. So I wouldn't say that would probably be the best option for you, although it is an option if you don't feel like anything else would work. But what I would do is I would reach out to those other teachers, their general classroom teacher, and I would just say oh, hey, I really want to help you monitor the students that we share. And so maybe we can agree on some shared login credentials or whatever. So you can have the password be the name of your school or something like that, so that it's an easy one for everybody to remember. And then you can log into the other teachers' accounts so that you can you can be able to keep track of their data too. Okay. Is there any chance Lalilo will extend the premium features through August 31st for teachers monitoring students through the summer due to school closures? We haven't had any talks about that, but it's been something that's on my mind. So we'll probably be discussing that as a team as we get closer to the end of our original date for the end of our free premium membership, which was June 30th. So we might, but we'll definitely let people know and announce that, especially on our social media. So definitely, keep an eye on those channels on our Facebook and our Instagram and stuff so that you can be up to date on that, because we'll definitely let people know that way. Are you able to buy a subscription as an individual teacher? No, we only sell licenses to schools and districts. But again, if you're really interested in it and you're maybe the only person at your school who's using Lalilo, then definitely still click on that request to quote button. And then we can, again, work with you and your principal and, maybe get some other teachers on board so that we can bring it to your school. So don't be afraid, even if you're not the decision maker, you can still kind of get the ball rolling. Honestly, that's how a lot of schools end up having Lalilo Premium, is that there's one or two teachers who really love it and are using it, and then they really become the champions and convince their principal and stuff. We've seen it lots of times. So definitely, send the resource to your principal and stuff like that, and see if people are interested, if other people are interested. Okay, can Lalilo create a quiz for the stories after the students read them? So there's no quiz at the end, but there are comprehension questions along the way as students are reading. So there isn't just like one set of questions at the end. They're kind of sprinkled throughout. Excuse me. Is it possible to view their map and know how far they are into the worlds? Yeah, you can just go to, remember how I showed you the student view button? So if you click on that and then find your class, you can click on any student and see what world they're in. Also, when a student moves onto a new world, you'll get a little certificate for them. We'll email you a little certificate for them with your weekly reports. And so that'll kind of help you to keep track. So, and I've seen teachers have like a little spreadsheet if they really want to keep track of what world their students are in. So it can like check off, what students have, what world students have already completed. So that's an option for you if you're interested in that. Okay, next question. We have 3 classes set up under our school code. One teacher sent the school code home. Can we change the school code and send a new parent codes to the class previously using the school code? Actually, yes, you can. And I'm going to show you. So that's something that we'll have to do for you. But the way that you can access our customer support is right here, this little chat box. So this is on your homepage, on your dashboard. It's in the student interface. It's on the parent account. It's on our homepage. It's everywhere. So you can actually send us a message here. Let us know about the school code issue, and we're happy to help. And honestly, like about any issues that you have, like if you have any other technical issues, if you can't log in, if your kids are having like glitchy problems, if you're having glitchy problems, if parents have like IT questions for you, I swear all of my friends who are teachers are saying now that they have become IT support people, because all they're doing is fielding questions from parents about how to log into this and what's the password for that. So if parents have questions too, send them here and we will answer those questions. So our customer support team is amazing and they're happy to help. They usually respond pretty quickly, especially if it's, during business hours, they'll respond really quickly and be able to help you with any of those kinds of things. So definitely utilize that and let your parents know about it too. Okay, do you have tutorials in French for distance learning like this one? Yes, we do. So I'm obviously not, not a French speaker, and I am not the expert on the French content, but I'm putting in the chat right now a link to register for our French webinar in case anybody is interested in that, because I know we have a lot of dual immersion teachers, people teaching both languages. So if you're interested in that, that's there for you in the chat. Okay, how much choice do the kids have when redeeming the badges? So I believe that they're all set stories. So once kids get to a certain number of badges, then they'll earn the first story, and then when they get to the next level, then they'll earn the next story, and the next and the next. So they don't have a ton of choice, but they still have like a little reward feeling. So. Can you link this to Seesaw or Google Classroom? Yep, you can so because Lalilo works as a learning progression, so it's kind of just like a queue of lessons that students work on one after another, you don't need to assign a specific lesson in your Google Classroom or your Seesaw account, but you can just like create an assignment that says like work on Lalilo for 20 minutes a day, which is what we recommend students do. And then from there, they'll just have the link to be able to go there, and then they can log in and they can get started. So, because everybody's kind of working on something different, because it's all like really differentiated. So you don't have to like create like a certain assignment, like work on, short O or something like that, because it'll just give them whatever lessons are appropriate for them to be working on at that moment. So that's how I would do it. Can students access through Clever? Unfortunately, we're not linked on Clever right now. It's something that we've definitely been talking about. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because we want to keep track of how many people wish that we were on Clever. And so that's really helpful to know. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we really take your feedback into consideration. So, if there's stuff like that, any feedback that you have, you can also put that in the customer support chat box, because we really do keep track of it. And we use that to improve our product all the time. Okay, next question. How do you set up your classroom for French learning? Is there an option to choose the language for the placement tests? So actually, I mentioned this really quickly, but at the beginning, but when you when you create your class, that's when you're going to choose the language. So once you click on create class, you'll either choose French or English, and then that will set the content for the whole class. So it'll be set the content for the placement test and for all of the lessons. We don't have a way for you to have both. So if you do teach both languages, you can create 2 classes, one in English and one in French. The only issue with that is that your kids will have, it'll be like there's, they're 2 different students. So they'll have 2 different parent codes. So, and what I would recommend for that is just have kids work at home on whatever their native language is. That way their parents will still be able to help out and stuff. Okay. That might have been the last question. I'm just going to check the chat and see if there's any little lingering questions. If you have any more questions, let me know before we wrap up. Our parent invite's also available in Spanish. So we don't have the actual parent invite in Spanish, but I do want to show you one thing. So if you click over here on resources and then go down to all the resources, we have a couple different resource pages for you to access. So this is just our main resource page. It's got information about like our pedagogy, like our standards alignment, and our research base, and the scope and sequences here again too. We've got some like getting started videos and stuff like that for you. And then we've also got different like resources for you to share Lalilo. We've got some different like printable goodies and stuff for you, and then stuff for parents. So this is like a little how-to guide for parents. So that could be something that you can send home. And we do have some that are translated. And then stuff for your admin, like I was mentioning before, if you want to do the request a quote button and you want to like give some information to share with your admin. Also on our homepage, we have a distance learning resource page that's set up just like the other one. But this is all stuff that's really dedicated to distance learning. And right here, we have a parent guide that's translated into a bunch of different languages. So definitely click here if you do have students whose parents speak Spanish or other languages, and you want them to be able to have a guide on how to get started. That's there for them too. Okay. So let's see. I think there might be a couple more. Let's see. I think that might be all the questions. If there's any last minute questions, you can let me know. But other than that, I think we've got them all. Okay, so only thing I want to share with you is just that chat box down at the bottom. That is like your best friend if you've got any questions at all. Again, we are really care about whether or not this product is helpful for you. So please let us know if you're experiencing any trouble at all. Because we really want to make sure that this is something that's easy for you to use, and that you're going to be able to get the most out of it. And I just had one more question pop up that said, where can we find a recording of this webinar after today? So this webinar is automatically recorded and it will get emailed to you as soon as we're done. So if you want to send it to anyone, or if you missed anything, then you can always access everything that we went through there. Again, let us know if you have any other questions in that chat box for our customer support. And thank you again so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with us about Lalilo. And for all the work that you do. Again, I know teaching is the hardest job in the whole world, and I can only imagine what it's like now with distance learning. So thank you so much for all of your hard work, and I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful weekend. And again, let us know if there's anything else that we can do to help you or support you. Thanks so much, everybody. Goodbye.